just came off of Immortals versus Golden Guardians, that do or die bottom 4 to make it into playoffs, and TSM and Dignitas find themselves in similar territory.
Yeah, it's really interesting race at the end of the split. If Dignitas can find this win after they just upset Immortals yesterday, or Golden Guardians, excuse me, that they should be able to find this one here as well. Then they can make it a 4-way tie. That'd be an insanely close end at the last week of the regular season. So that's another reason to be pulling for Dignitas if you just want to see some chaos.
Especially when you don't know what chaos can ensue in a super week of the last.
Yeah, so a lot of tiebreakers.
Oh yeah, we live for it, baby. But as far as the draft that we got going, bans locked in. It's an Ahri for the first lock-in for TSM here. A pick for Maple that has worked out with a response from Lulu, who has been making her statement all across the weekend alongside the Viego.
Yeah, Viego is both a fine pick in its own right, but I think also a bit of a takeaway from Spica. Has a little bit more individual carry potential, you could say, than some of the other jungle options. Like Wukong can carry, of course, we've seen contracts pop off, a lot of people did, but like the Poppy necessarily or the Trundle. So taking that away from him, as well as being able to combo with Ahri in the mid lane, I think is a good play by Dignitas to take that.
And 6 Viego games for Spica across the split thus far, so for sure targeting in that direction. On the TSM side, Sivir, a prominent pick through and through, all across, and early prioritization in multiple drafts with the bot lanes really getting that heavy emphasis.
Yeah, it feels like we were talking about in the previous game about, do you go early game or are you more about the scaling option? And Sivir feels like the premier scaling option. Just in the late game, those ricochets are absolutely insane. Zeri is no joke either though, so Dignitas grabbing that one.
Yeah, can definitely have a heavy impact, especially in the latter portions of the game when getting online, chasing down the rest of the team. For TSM side, Chime the last couple games had played the Bard, which is obviously a comfort pick for him, but he's also noted wanting there to be specific conditions when it comes out. Didn't have a good experience in that game against Evil Geniuses yesterday, so wanting to switch things up with the Nautilus. Also, when you think about the fact that engaged supports in general are something that we're looking towards in the future weeks because of 12.14.
I am a little surprised to see Nautilus in particular. It doesn't feel like the clear Sivir pairing. The option that a lot of people go for is some sort of enchanter to help her in the early lane phase, as well as being able to kind of buff you up in the late game. But Nautilus doesn't really help with a lot of lane phases. He has some strong ones that can be paired with like Kai'Sa back in the day, but right now it doesn't feel like a strong winning lane as opposed to Lulu Zeri should have priority. It feels like in that lane, and it's going to be for Chime a lot more about, like you're saying, these team fights around dragons and whatnot, and maybe getting out of lane and affecting things with roams.
Because that tankiness and that durability that works later on within the game, not very present for Nautilus in the early stages when you can actually poke him down very effectively, so something for TSM to be looking out for. With the bans concluded, there was still a prioritization towards taking away another one of Spica's favored picks, and now getting the additional lock-ins.
As well as getting rid of some of the other options to play into Ahri. You see TSM gets rid of Lissandra and LeBlanc, and Dig is going to potentially pick blue this Sylas again here.
A lot of Dignitas' success yesterday was blue on the Sylas, properly positioning around objectives and making sure to survive.
I gotta say, also, we get a yeah for Ornn, I guess?
I guess.
Okay. Well,
Ornn, baby. That's the most enthusiastic Ornn exclamation I've heard, I think.
I mean, especially for Solo, he did have a game where they just played around the Ornn. They killed, I think it was Whippo like 4 times. So there you go. Solo is a pretty competent Ornn pilot. And they round out their team comp with a lot of good team fighting.
It feels like whenever Solo comes in for the rescue on a team, there is a large amount of Ornn play, being able to be adaptive with the way he wants to approach the laning phase and serving the team later.
And I think for blue, there's a lot of good ults to steal now. The Ahri gained the extra mobility, the Nautilus for lockdown CC, same with the Ornn, being able to snipe that one away. And blue, where I was going, was someone who, on a team that is struggling, able to put out individual carry potential. I think he is someone who can have his bad games, but his good games are like 1v9. And he hasn't won all of those games. There's been a couple like Azir games versus Cloud9 that got away from him. But yesterday you saw the potential of blue when he's having one of his good games. He can pop off and just take his entire team across the finish line. He had such a good Sylas yesterday.
It does feel like he's sometimes lost in that mid lane conversation because there are other notable names in that top portion, but the clutch factor when it matters to go for that 2-0 weekend. But TSM hoping to disrupt that in their own right.
Yep, TSM also made a lot of changes to make sure that they could make a playoff push. You had Solo join the team, as well as picking up Chime, and they're still in position to make it.
And of those new voices, Spawn is one of the ones we have been looking towards for some time. Let's hear what he has to say.
So the goals that I've set for myself and teammates is playing confident. So on stage, we want to show how we performed in scrims and also in academy. I think we had a good mesh, worked really well together, right? And we played confident, trusted each other's calls. So I want that to transition into our LCS play.
One thing that may be lost on fans here of the LCS, if you weren't watching Academy, is Dignitas was known for a lot of that shoulder content they were putting out to show that synergy among the players, that friendliness, that willingness to rely upon one another, and having such a good chunk of this team come forward, it makes sense that he would call that out in this matchup.
I mean, you saw eXyu not afraid to talk smack as a new kid on the Rift. Call him freak out for his takes. They're not going to win another game. Next week, win a game. So, going to back that one up. And I'm sure for them, TSM is something you circle on your calendar. Always happy to try and take a win against them.
And one thing as we get set in this game, everyone just taking to standard positioning for the Dignitas side, there is something I wanted to bring up. Jat yesterday during the game took to an NBA comparison, as he often does, paralleling these teams that are trying to fight into the playoffs and likening it to the play-ins for the NBA and that scrappy nature and when you're trying to come through. And I actually have another aspect I want to bring in for Dignitas, where when you look at basketball players, and there's somebody who is a high volume shooter and they're going cold, they haven't been making their shots, right? The worst thing you can do when going against them is putting them at the free throw line, because once they get that first shot, they notably express the hoop as looking larger. Dignitas got to sink a shot yesterday on not a free throw, but more even footing against Immortals. And if they do the same here against TSM, everything feels more possible. They have a hard super week coming up, but maybe that hoop gets larger. Maybe they start to dunk things and make that dream that eXyu has to really see this team make that clutch gaming type run just that much more possible in the eyes of the players.
Yeah, I mean, confidence, feeling your hot hand, whatever you want to call it, is very much a thing. It's something you can't really predict, but there's just times where suddenly you feel like everything you do is right. People talk about flow state, whatever you want to go into. There's a whole lot of people who spend a lot of time trying to get into that mode. And for Dignitas, like you said, a lot of them, it was their first win in the LCS, and just getting that first one under your belt has to feel so good. And now it's going to be on, I feel like, Blue again on the Sylas to find the angles to kind of help set his team up. They do have pretty strong front-to-back team fighting for both teams. Dignitas are a little bit more of a meatball comp, even Zeri kind of getting into the mix, being relatively low range compared to like the Sivir and Ahri and whatnot.
We'll see where they continue through. As we noted, solo on the Ornn, definitely looking to keep stable as he has been able to be on this pick in the lane before.
Yep, and we see actually not Ignite on the Sejuani. We saw a solo kill yesterday. I can't remember the game, but there was a Ornn versus Sejuani matchup, and there was the solo kill with the Ignite. This time around, not going to be the case. I think it was Dig, or was it Dig versus 100 Thieves? Golden Guardians!
Golden Guardians.
Thank you, chat.
Yeah. the live chat.
The live chat, yeah. Coming up big. I think it's something where I do know you can technically get a solo kill because we saw it yesterday, but I do prefer Flash, given that what you're going to be trying to do in these team comps is Flash Q on top of a Sivir or an Ahri and interrupt them and chain CC them to give the rest of your team an opportunity to kill them. The Ignite, not really needed in the lane, and this has been something we've talked about on and off throughout the year, is just kind of the default Ignite that people take, even in matchups where what are you really going to be accomplishing after you win a trade in lane?
The mindset of a lot that are on Sejuani also being very focused on servicing the team. Maple getting chunked down here and does have to pop a potion. Nice knock up. A bit low for Hoon, but down on the bot side, we have the 4v2. Viego is on the approach. Flash away from the Dignitas side. Many summoners blown, all of them for the bot lane for Dignitas. And here at the top, such a razor's edge for these two.
Yeah, getting scrappy, but no one finding that kill. One of the things the Nautilus can do, we were talking about this. Not going to check that brush. One of the things the Nautilus does beyond, roam around, but also give you better gank setup for your individual lanes so that you can actually try and find kills onto this matchup. So, yes, it's not quite as powerful in 2v2 trading necessarily in lane, but with Spica coming down there, able to get a big summoner advantage, the double mobility is still available for TSM, both flashes up, but all 4 sums down on Dignitas does give a window for them to try and make a play here. If they can get some priority, you have Maple who can roam down and make a big dive happen and kind of blow the game open from bot lane.
Also, just when you think about the way that early prioritization changes because of how the objectives operate now, the Dragon changes, the Rift Herald as well, seeing what they can set up if they can punish over on that bot side, because the Dragon has officially spawned, but no risks to be taken just yet.
Not quite yet. Gonna look for how they want to get their first kill in this game. We talked about bot lane being an option. I wouldn't be surprised if Dignitas try and get mid. We talked about the Ahri and Viego combination, but Sylas and Viego are no joke either, especially at 6 when you get to steal the Ahri ultimate to get your setup for your chains to lock them down in the first place. Does help a lot.
Definitely a way to facilitate all the resets that Viego can have in those multiplayer matchups here. And the synergy between eXyu and Blue will be important to execute on a lot of that. But right now, it's eXyu actually backing just to get a bit of an exit from his own jungle here. On TSM side, Spica making his way from that top side clear over into the bot side as well. Not ready to make a play just yet, and gravitating towards where those missing summoners are.
Able to escape out of there by Hoon. Another thing I like about this matchup, not just the battle for 8th in playoffs that we've been talking a lot about, but also a lot of the younger talents subbing in off their academy squads. You're not just watching to see, can this team make the run, but also, what's the future of the LCS? So many of these players came in the middle of the split. Nice interrupt there by Hoon, stopping Solo's charge with his Q. Nice buffer. But you get to see potentially the future of the LCS and some rising superstars. eXyu is someone who has had moments where he's been able to make the game entirely about him.
Some potentials of the skirmish here, but it's a blue over to Spica's side. And on that note, I think that's one of the most intriguing things when it comes to these players that are stepping in. And it can feel like a generic question in, oh, what are your goals? What are your goals coming in here, right? Is it, oh, taking a little bit of a step down on that?
All right, I gotta give Hoon some credit here. He is outplaying Solo. The trades are still relatively even because both these champions are able to do a pretty insane amount of damage for tanks. But the interrupts on the dash-ins by the Ornn, getting his own Q to stop it, buffer that one, and then as well as waiting for the R2 of his ultimate to throw out his E, stop that ult from coming through, making it very frustrating to play, it looks like.
I can feel a little bit of that simmering from that frustration for sure, but nice patience on both sides. Here down bot, Spica has finally made his way, was on top of a ward though, so this is no new knowledge to the bot lane of Dignitas. We want to keep as safely as possible. Some plates, now getting the opportunity to be chunked down for the TSM side. Gold starting to expand slightly, nothing major yet. Decent damage onto Instinct, but now they have a wave to usher through.
Yeah, but you see you have eXyu moving into the top side to try and get a potential invade off or gank, maybe just the Rift Herald. They had that blue buff contest that we saw where TSM was grouping up for that one, and Dig just continued on with the game plan of clearing up to the top side for eXyu, and then TSM used that window to know that there was no one to help, and they were able to grab a turret plate. The flip side of that play is now potentially the Rift Herald or your blue buff, but Maple was able to get up there, contest eXyu, stop him from being able to do it. Now it just turns out to be a leash for TSM.
That intel properly used by TSM here, so they will claim the first Rift Herald.
Oh no!
Leash completely nullified. Someone took scissors to it and cut him off.
Yeah, Shelly resets. Still going to be in their favor, just going to cost a little bit longer for Spica now, but he has plenty to do after this as well. He has almost his entire jungle up to go back into. Still throws out the thumbs up. I got it. He's good.
You eventually get it. Still a lot of value to be had by it, so I think the thumbs up can be taken as a nice tranquil space that Spica is in after that. So that'll be in his pocket to be able to throw down. But so far, Mark, not a lot of action across here. No one really willing to...
No, they're dropping the ball. Today was crazy. We had so many good games. Yeah, people want to see bloodshed. This is what we're watching for. Not these clean, hover bot, get a turret plate, rotate up the top, steal the Rift Herald. It's all great play, TSM, I gotta say. Up to a 400 gold advantage with this Rift Herald as well. Gonna figure out where they want to drop this one, but no bloodshed yet, and that's what we want.
And no bloodshed quite yet, so everything is coming off the laning prow as the 1v1 here. Another ultimate coming from Ornn. Solo gets the knock up onto Hoon, but dash away.
It's so cursed. This top match is not going to get a kill. You saw what Hoon wanted to do there. He wanted to get the stun interrupt on the R2 again. It didn't even work, and even then he was just like, all right, I'll Q out of the way then. There's feels very doomed. I appreciate the effort that the top laners are putting in to have some mechanical outplays in tank versus tank, but at the end of the day, it's still just a wet noodle fight. The bot lane summoners have come back up. Dignitas' bot lane is not that easily exploitable anymore. They did do a good job of backing up during that window, especially when eXyu cleared up to the top side of the map. So they did see their gold a little bit, but respected the power spike that TSM was on.
Button clicking respected on the top lane. Bot side is some of the potential advantages nullified. Dragon's still up for a play, so looking to see who can offer pressure on one of the surrounding lanes. TSM here with Spica as well. But a backing here from Blue. Doesn't have teleport.
They were trying to catch Blue in that little recall there with their bot lane pressure. They do start the Mountain Dragon. It is very tanky these days. The damage that it does was drop, but Dragons got their health pool increased. So going to be slow to go down, and Dignitas want to contest this.
And Chime doing his best to put his body between himself and the rest of Dignitas here. Solo making his slow walk down as well. But no commitment until this moment. Dignitas making sure to remain in the vicinity. Hoon also coming through, did not have teleport available.
Yeah, got him on a yo-yo. Hoon came down, looked like he was going to reset. They dropped Dragon. Now they're actually going.
He's the one to go in, gets knocked up upon the entry, and at the wild growth does manage to survive. Spica chunked down to half HP, but still remains. Immediate retreat.
Biofrost teasing us there, able to keep eXyu alive with the heal and ultimate, but now Dignitas is starting this Dragon out. There were a lot of ultimates committed by both teams. Only Ahri ult up for the side of TSM, and without a way to start that fight, they end up sacking it. But on the flip side, they got the push on mid lane, gonna grab a couple of turret plates in their favor again, grow the gold lead up to over 1,000.
So still maintaining some pressure, even though that first Dragon was given over to the Dignitas side. TSM spending a lot of time flirting with it, but unable to connect. But the gold's still something for them to rely upon. So I don't know, did the Scuttle get the larger yeah, or was it the Ornn earlier that got the larger yeah? I'm just looking at the yeah scale.
I don't know. At this point, I'm just counting down the time to first blood, see what kind of reaction that's gonna get. It's like when you, like you said, you just keep teasing it out. Eventually, it'll be even better for it. It'll be more fun than having, I don't know, 10 kills right now, right?
What?
Is anyone being convinced by this logic?
What kind of first blood in your head would give the justification for a really long time for it to happen where you're like, oh that was worth it?
There's none.
No play in the entire Summoner's Rift.
Every minute the game goes by without a kill, I get sadder. There's no benefit to it being delayed. Hopefully you're on this Rift Herald push, we get it.
Killing someone, the key to MarkZ happiness. Getting a Rift Herald charge onto the mid turret. That's one way to put some smiles on the faces of TSM and the fans alike. Able to finish it off. They won't get the second charge because Dignitas was awaiting those hits.
So to be fair, Dignitas did not bring anyone to defend that. Going in would in fact be inting, given that they kept Hoon in the top side and spawned down bot lane to get the shove in their favor, trying to get some CS back in their pocket, respecting that TSM had first move there as well. So I understand that was not the fight of all the fights to actually pick, but I'm looking like either next Rift Herald or Dragon in 3 minutes, unless someone can make a play happen.
If they did go for it and then end up dying there, would you say that's the most disappointing way for First Blood to happen?
No, I'll take anything at this
I'm just
point.
trying to force you into
I'm a starving man. I will take a crumb, my lord.
Oh gosh, sounded like the character in a book that I can't remember now. So.
Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, here we go!
Hey, let's go for it! Hoon get locked down, first blood over to Spica!
You knew it was gonna come in the top side, the trading back and forth. At one point, someone was gonna fall asleep, not realize more people were missing off the map. Spica and Chime making that rotation up there, get that first blood, and give the crowd what they want. TSM now the best team, everyone's favorite team in this game.
Everybody's favorite. Though I will say it's not a new look for TSM to have that roaming over from Chime to put that pressure on the top side and capitalize upon some of that pushing on through. But let's hear what the players themselves have to say.
Nice. I want to sneak in. I need to get in the bush. Okay.
Bot's not showing, okay, guys?
Yeah.
This wave push sides can be here. Sides can be here.
No, it's okay. We have support gap, I think.
Yeah. I'm ahead of Lulu.
Maybe hello?
Yeah, I'm looking in a second.
Beast that, I think.
I think Ornn just base after this wave and go bot. Ornn base and go bot. I'll go top.
Sure.
I'll take over top.
Wow, look at that. All business. They get that first blood, swap up to the top side. Instinct already saying, I'm coming up there to try and grab some extra turret plates and whatnot. So well done by TSM there coordinating that attempt.
A very different response than we had to First Blood, but I think it's for the best of their team.
A little more measured, yeah.
Executing strategy. I think everyone will agree there, but as far as the response from that, you could hear them making that call.
And I liked your point right before heading into that about Chime being someone who has, I think, been very impressive since he's been brought into the starting lineup for TSM. Almost solo won that first Bard game, not quite as successful in the previous one, but someone who does seem to have this inkling for knowing when to move out of the lane, find these opportunities. So finding himself on the Nautilus, he's able to go up there, find that hook, and actually get that kill, help convert that. And one of the things that he can do is be such a playmaker for TSM.
See if any plays are made right now as TSM keep their eyes on this Rift Herald. Dignitas on the approach, go in for the knockup. A charm lands onto one, followed up with the root, but Hoon, the subject once again by the wild growth. Blue flashes away, follow-up knockup onto Hoon, leads to his death once more in the center of it all. eXyu still remains until TSM has something to say about it. Another flash plus. Oh, the charm immediately after, answered by the stasis of Biofrost, but it's not enough. The note was written, the death is achieved. 3 down for Dignitas. Blue looking for a safe place to back.
Nice 3-0 fight for TSM. Chime in the brush, baited them in. Off the tail end of that, they're going to instantly drop the Rift Herald mid, grab some more gold in their pocket, up to a 5,000 gold lead just over 16 minutes into the game. Looking really good for TSM. Nearly a perfect game aside for the one dragon that they had given up to Dignitas.
And the second Rift Herald being achieved there, and definitely worked out for them. Let's hear it.
Play for finish first. Play for finish first. Play for finish first. I got it. We fight.
Okay.
Sejuani.
I go Sedge first.
No flash, Sejuani.
Yeah. Look at me, okay? Look at me after. Look at me after.
Viego. Hook in 5. Yo, follow Lulu.
Yeah.
They have no tower.
Kill Biofrost.
Hook in 3. I'm going on him. 2.
Oh my god.
Look at Zeri.
Wait, he
Okay.
wasted his stopwatch.
Give me the kill.
Oh my god. Someone go
I
top.
hero
Someone
mid.
go.
You gotta call it out. That's one way to do it.
Obviously, more fun on that one. When it's a 3-for-0 and you're getting Rift Herald, you can have a little bit more fun there. I have to say, my other favorite thing about these listens, I'm just watching Solo absolutely silent the whole time. It's just, he's the Uslan that you saw LeTigress talking about. He's not communicating with the team, stone-faced. Just Solo the bounty hunter. He had a massive 3-man Ornn ult across the enemy backline. Didn't even call it out. He was just like, I'm going to crush these guys.
Think about the times we've heard teams talk about it being a disadvantage having so many voices. So having Solo who's willing to go mute can for sure be a benefit.
Stoic, mullet wearing, making plays around for his team. There's been a number of times that TSM's early kills have come through him and manipulating the wave states and working with his jungler and support. There's always seems to be a good opportunity to make plays around Solo. He does such a good job of setting them up.
A lot of that off of him, how uniquely he does play the lane and sometimes catching players off guard. And also going back to Chime a little bit, because we were talking about how he's able to facilitate on that side. One thing when going into these listen-ins, thinking about the last time he was in the LCS before he dipped back into Academy, he was specifically calling out wanting to find that voice and really work on that leadership being so important from the support position, as TSM does go in here, gets knocked up by one. The follow-up though, oh no, they lose Spica. An ultimate executed again on eXyu, but did get the pickup of their first kill.
Little over eager there, as Maple needs to be careful not to face check eXyu there. Just Spica thinking he can get the red buff and clone out, not giving quite enough respect to the rest of Dignitas. Flash in there, eXyu gets the stun, they get the kill. Feeling himself a little bit, they were 5,000 gold up, but just a small overstep, not the end of the world. The shutdown does go over, but still a big lead. It's just about making sure they don't lose anything else off the back end of that slight pressure loss. Maple is gonna be just fine.
Still plenty of time until the next Drake, and with no major objectives, they're able to make the play. Let's hear it.
Maybe here. Fight smartly. If they show on the waves, then we fight.
I'm here.
No,
I'm gonna scan.
it's good fight. It's good fight. It's good fight.
Kill this guy. No W.
Our set Mo. I mean.
Nice.
Okay, go catch up.
I'll go top.
Okay.
That is a classic of team comms. Wait to kill this guy. If you've ever been in scrims, if you've ever listened to teams, it's this moment where the enemy missteps and you go, what is this guy thinking? And we can kill him. Sometimes you get baited, but that was not the opportunity there. They saw Spica just E forward into the red buff and be like, wait a minute, we can just kill him.
You open your hands, they hop right on in that case, hopping into the red buff pit, and Dignitas able to slam it down. What you need to be able to do when you're already falling behind, when something is put into your face like that, you want to know that the team can rely upon those fundamentals.
You have to stand your ground at some point, as Spica might go over the wall here and try and pick a fight.
Looking for it onto Biofrost, knock up and more, has to wild growth onto himself before flashing away. Teleport coming in a supportive style for Dignitas, but the Ornn Horn goes strong. The responsive Ornn Horn from Blue's side, see if they can link it on back, but the charm directly onto Hoon, has to flash away. All of these flashes used after a lot of these connections, but no lives lost.
Able to save Private Biofrost there, kite out from the rest of the enemy team. Do lose a lot of summoners and ultimates to make it happen, but no more deaths going down. Still 2 minutes before the Ocean Dragon, so most of those except the flashes will come back up. Good look by TSM, almost finding a flank onto him. And Solo was in a good position to try and finalize that kill, but not quite able to do it.
And in the end, TSM are up 5.4K right now. So when you're looking at that dragon fight just under 2 minutes into the future, wanting to maintain that so they can slap Dig a bit harder, then Dignitas can slap themselves.
Why are Dignitas slapping themselves?
I don't know. I said it.
Was that
and I meant TSM, and I was hoping you would just go right past it. And you didn't do that, Mark. You didn't do that.
English is funny. You can sometimes interpret things in ways, slap harder than themselves. Like you can say that they're slaps themselves, but you're actually...
See, and I was thinking that. Maybe somebody will read it a different way, and you just had to put me on the spot to try to justify it, and I had nothing for it.
I had to say it that way.
All right, keeping me honest. Keeping me honest. But in the end, pretty much exactly where we were before. You just humiliated my word choice.
A minute before Dragon. We're talking about the game now. TSM getting pushed mid and bot, setting up. Wards all in the jungle. Look at this. Distraction. Look at these. All these wards down there.
That is actually super important for what's to come. Or Solo trying to set it up right now. A direct isolation of Biofrost on the side ends up giving his own life for it. eXyu was also lost previously, so Dignitas losing 2. And TSM, a nice path of retreat for themselves. They don't go down bot, they go directly onto the Baron. There's no jungler around, so they see the opportunity.
Yeah, this is basically free. I mean, Hoon and Spawn and Blue are going to try to contest, because if they don't, the game's basically over. But with no smite, you have to somehow win a 3v5.
All right, let's hear how TSM is taking on this play.
Flash. I stun.
Keep going.
Has flashes. I'm gonna
let's just base, bros.
I'm out.
Let's just
nothing to
base.
base for.
Dignitas get picked off there. You saw they tried their best. TSM, though, get the Baron, get a clean turn, pick up one more kill onto Hoon. They lured Dignitas into a false sense of security, just like us, thinking that the objective was going to be the Dragon. That's where all the vision control was, and they catch them out in the topside jungle, and it's an easy fallback onto Baron. Really nicely done here. The Sivir ult coming up big. Dignitas have lost so many turrets in the mid lane. It's so easy to actually get into this jungle of Dignitas and find these angles onto them. You can see with no mid lane inner or outer turrets out, there's not really a safe path to take back to their base. The Sivir speed up makes sure that you can get this CC chain down. So much CC on the side of TSM for the 5 members with some way to set up their own play. They get those kills, and then it's, again, because they have so many abilities to actually turn off the Baron, be able to find that easy kill into Hoon.
And exactly as you were noting, having that mid lane so prioritized to crack open by TSM, the advanced warding leading into that play after taking down the enemy jungler. Now, wearing that purple with the Red Bull Baron buff, they bring that power to the bot lane. A wave ushered in. Both of the mid lane and the bot lane are where they'll be focusing their sights right now, burning this one down.
Yep, Inhibitor going to be dropping next in the mid lane while Solo gets the bot side set up. Spica crushing that one, having a monster game again at 5-1-1. Despite that one little oopsie that he had, he has been the driving force for almost all of the team's plays. Nearly 100% kill participation.
And looking to continue that, as right now they've just been able to build so much advantages throughout the game, not giving Dignitas a lot of openings. And when you're facing a Baron buff like this with a team that has a clear gold advantage over you, there's no reason to try and misstep.
It's also difficult for Dignitas because they're so low range. We talked about how their team comp is this kind of big dive. Very hard to defend sieges. They could try and go now the Ornn ult's down.
At the Ornn ult into the responsive Ornn ult, but right now TSM, they just wanted to try and create enough distance to be able to continue chunking down on the objective.
Very easy for Sivir to spell shield such a telegraphed ability, and if that's the only ultimate that you have kind of coming in, she is able to sidestep that one easily enough. So TSM keep this pressure up, trying to work down this bot inhibitor turret.
seeing if they can take down the second one here. TSM, Dignitas, all in the vicinity. Once this turret goes down, it gives them an opening blue. Going into stasis nice and early. Hoon, Wild Growth, and Flash away from him. Double knock-up Solo into the backline. Instinct is getting mighty low, though, but they take down the pig herself before he can make an impact. The knockups continue with all that TSM has at their skill availability. This is a 5v3 currently in time. They're going to keep up the pressure. Supers coming into the base because of the time that had passed since they took that inhib. Spawn looking to try and make the play, the burst fire and beyond. eXyu into the back, gets the heartbreaker, takes over Ornn himself. Spica into stasis, he goes so low on the HP. Falls, 2 of TSM were eradicated, so it's time for them to retreat, but look at that base.
That was such a close opportunity for TSM to end the game there, but fancy footwork by Spawn, the Zeri popping off to keep them alive, found multiple kills. Solo, after the end of that, the 2 inhibitors grab, decides, I got this one, guys. Everyone else reset. A big battle between him and the Dragon, but first we gotta listen in on how that team fight went down.
Watch Zeri, watch Zeri. Yep. I can W in 1. Watch, I'm gonna go.
Yeah. Watch Wu.
Wukong low free. Kill Wukong. Oh, I didn't get the reset. It's okay.
Can we go Jake? TP Dragon.
So they asked if they could Dragon. The answer was no. It happened off screen. Solo did in fact finish soloing the Dragon.
Solo Dragon.
He even flashed a well-played emote in case he was on screen to say, hey, good fight, Dragon, but he actually ended up winning that one, that 1v1.
That is the true preparation, making sure you have the emote available.
You don't know if the camera's on you, so you just got to be flashing them at all times.
I appreciate your call out of it. The audience needs to know this dire information. But right now, bringing the action back over to the top side, you can see Chime looking for the hook, seeing if they can pick somebody out to bring them forward and burn them down with the advantages that they have created. Multiple Dignitas members holding into this bush in which they have a control ward, but it's answered by a control over from the TSM side. The pressure that they continue to mount across these lanes, now looking over towards top.
Yeah, Baron buff down, but still, like you said, so much pressure on the side of TSM with the inhibitors down bot and mid. Those are going to be constantly pushing lanes. Dignitas trying to defend this inner turret does give some angles for TSM to wrap around behind them. You can see them have to be very careful.
Right, going for it. Quite the burn down onto Instinct here. As soon as out of stasis, Blue eliminated Instinct with the kill credit. Hoon's been hovering over that wall side to see if he can find a point of entry, but they can't because look at all those minions coming into the base. The opening is here for TSM. Full team in effect. Can they make it happen? But the lockdown on the Spica is too good. You gotta be worried about those resets that they're coming through from eXyu. Another route onto him, though, is answered by Maple, putting TSM onto the forefront. But in the end, they end up losing too, and they don't feel confident enough to go for more.
Second time in a row, TSM saw the Nexus in their eyes, overstepped just a little bit. Spica gets locked up underneath the turret. He ends up dropping, and because they focused on ending the game, they didn't even finish the top inhibitor turret, meaning that there's no double super creeps spawning down these lanes right now. It's going to give Dignitas a bit of breathing room, and Zeri continues to scale. Luckily for TSM, there's not really a big scaling advantage on Dignitas' side, though you can see how scary this Zeri is now, hitting 3 items and starting to get some armor pen.
Something that TSM will be wary of in the team fights to come, because it did feel like they thought, okay, we have the waves pushing elsewhere. If we can take down this top side, even if we can't end there, then you have the double supers coming through, and it feels like an inevitability in terms of the loss for Dignitas, but not quite finishing up. That turret around the Nexus still saved by Dignitas, but you do have to worry about that vulnerability in general that you're facing.
Yeah, I see the 1,000 damage crit from the Zeri W, looking a little gross there. TSM, you can feel how important this game is to them. If they're able to get this win, it puts them above all those other teams. We're talking about that potential 4-way tie for 6th or 7th place. Excuse me. This will just give them sole possession of it, as well as potentially a 2-game breathing room if they're able to keep finding these wins. Not gonna actually go in there. And so for TSM, you can feel how much pressure they're kind of putting on themselves to actually close this game out. They want it done. They've overstepped a couple times trying to force it down and make sure that Dignitas does not tie them in the standings.
The energy from the voices when we've gotten to hear them, especially Spica wanting to hit that go button time and time again, even in these moments. But they retake down that mid inhibitor. And that's enough for them right now to consider a win because the objectives are starting to spawn. You have the Baron up over on that top side. Still 1 minute and 23 seconds until the next dragon, though.
I do like the decision to focus on finishing off the inhibitor, knowing that Dignitas being so low range can't really stop you from taking it unless they choose to pick the fight themselves. So TSM can grab that one for free, and we'll listen in on this Baron.
Yeah, I want to play for turn here.
Okay, we should really fight.
Let's go around, go around. Yeah, they're solo. Look at me. Just go around. Sivir, go now. Sivir, go now. Sivir, go now.
Look at Sej here. Sej.
Yeah, look at me. Oh, he doesn't have jump.
Look at
Lulu. Keep going. I'm looking. Yeah, I'm
Lulu
going.
got knocked up. Lulu got knocked up. Yo, care Zeri.
No flash.
Look at me.
Viego. This guy's grief.
I'm going.
Wait, Lulu.
I want to kill Biofrost. Can we kill Biofrost?
Where the fuck did he go? Alright,
Can we end? Are we end, bros?
Okay.
What the fuck?
We need
We all knew it was a potential with the live comms.
Yep. I also love the, I want to kill Biofrost. Can I kill Biofrost?
Sounded a little personal or something.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure. Maybe there was some secret smack talk behind the stage. I gotta say, sick hook by Chime, grabbing Hoon out of his queue over the wall, making sure they find that first kill, remove the front line of Dignitas so that they can try and snowball through the game.
TSM are ready for this time. 3 members here. A charm onto blue. A stopwatch hit. A hook onto 1. Taking down the biggest threat on Dignitas. TSM should feel the vibration of the fans starting to rejoice, trying to see if they can make these pushes in the final moments of the regular season. Get as many kills as you can, TSM. Set yourself up and sink that one down.
You heard the TSM chants right at the end as they grab sole possession of 7th place, moving up to 5 and 10. Looking good for a late season playoff push. 3 games left, but looking like they set themselves up well for it.
Critical moment for this squad with a definitive plan on their minds coming into this game. Dignitas, though, perhaps slightly deflated after what they just witnessed. But I love to hear the TSM fans rejoicing. They're going to need that energy to be able to continue pushing off of this.
Well, and you heard them still having fun a lot in their comms. They were less serious than Team Liquid were in that game that we saw earlier in the day. Once they win these fights, it's all serious until they know that they have the fight won. Then they're looking for how they can find the extra kills. TSM, a very fun team to watch right now, seeing how much noise they can make if they can actually secure playoffs.
Whenever there's a bit more similarity between their comms and how I feel people sound when I'm just in Discord with my friends at home playing, I feel like that's a good time for TSM on the stage.
Definitely the case. Also giving them sole possession in 7th place, making me sweat for my job a little bit. We'll have to see how that goes from there. For Dignitas, still ending up now at sole possession of 10th place with this loss as well. Gonna have to see what they can do next week. Technically not eliminated from playoffs yet. I'm not sure if they hold fate in their own hands or what they need to break that way. We'll have all those tiebreaker scenarios figured out by next week. But even for the individual players, I think you saw some good moments from Spawn, able to pop off, some good laning out of Hoon and whatnot. So still some players showing off individually.
And Spica very much continuing to be a backbone of the opposite side as well for TSM in their victory. So I think there's a lot to look forward to with both of these squads.
Well, and you can hear how vocal he is for the team. That final team fight, he's the one who's saying, Sivir, pop ult now, let's go. We have this turn opportunity, they're all low. And so Spica is very much the leader of this team, trying to, shot call for a lot of the younger guys and get them in. And he's doing a great job of it. They are being able to pick up some wins now, that this seems to be the lineup that they want to use going forward.
It is one of those things that I'm always in awe when thinking back to when that narrative began. Oh, Spica, he's the veteran of the team. He's the one leading. And I think he hasn't been around that long. It's actually really early in his career. So that's a lot of pressure to put on someone to step into that role. And he's been flourishing in terms of being that shot caller and that uniting force.
And I think there was a little bit too much put on his plate, maybe in spring, where not only do you have to shot call, you also have to potentially translate and be all like the leader for the team and whatnot. Here, you can see that he does have the ability to shot call. He can be the one deciding mid to late game, early game, what needs to happen in the game, but you do also need to give him some breathing room where he can focus on his own play, because he can absolutely carry the game.
And it's nice when you can see the squad in general starting to form a bit more of an identity in these moments, the way they can play around the advantages that Solo creates in the top side, Chime's willingness to roam and really capitalize upon those said advantages is something that I'm sure they will continue to lean in on the side of TSM.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good things working for them. Instinct has looked good since he's come in. He played the weak side Sivir when Nautilus went top, when they went to Rift Herald and whatnot. Chime, like you said, great job starting a lot of these fights. Even that Rift Herald one, he just stood in the brush, baited with E, then hooked out, and then re-engaged later. Like, the team is beginning to gel, and they you wonder, like, are you going to be one of these teams that can make some noise in the lower bracket, pick these people off? Because it's very difficult to actually make the push all the way up into 6. I think it's theoretically possible. I think FlyQuest is at 7 and 9 now, and they are at 5 and 10. So, in theory, they can even break into the top half of the bracket.
That's why I'm so stoked for next week, because not only is it the last week, but Super Weeks always come through and rattle things up. So a lot can happen for not just TSM, but all of the teams in the LCS. As far as this victory goes, though, we are going to be joining Pastry Time and Spica for our Verizon postgame.